Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. My name is Ben Jackson. I'll be your host, and I'm joined by two gentlemen that I literally saw about 12 hours ago. Scott and Joris, how are you guys doing this evening?
We came, we saw, and I think we conquered.
What a weekend it was! Probably the perfect weekend to have this first trip over in Belgium.
Absolutely. Yes, so we have finally been to Belgium. We finally met each other in person. I actually didn't recognise Scott when I first saw him because he didn't have a beard. I was like, it looks like Scott, but I'm not sure it is Scott. But we also ended up getting on the wrong train together and going the complete opposite direction to where we should have been. But hey, it's all part of the adventure. Slightly different kind of format, I guess, this week to how we usually do it, just because purely we were at games rather than being able to watch everything. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the ones we did see and some of the stuff we did while we were out there. We'll obviously talk about the fallout from some of the other games, but let me quickly go through the results. So Friday night, the game we were at, we saw Cercle Brugge against Charleroi. That one finished 4-1 to the home side. Kortrijk lost 2-0 at home to Westerlo. Sint-Truiden and Leuven played out a 0-0 draw. Mechelen got a 2-1 win over Eupen, which saw the end of Bernd Stork's time in East Belgium. Union and Club Brugge played out an absolute classic. That one finished 2-2, and we were at that one. Antwerp lost a big game to Genk 3-1. Joris was there trying to keep himself very relaxed and calm. Ghent beat Sarang 2-1. Standard beat Anderlecht technically 3-1, but the game was suspended due to fan issues. That also saw the end of Felice Mazu. Oostend rounded off the weekend with a big 2-1 win over Zulte Waregem. Let's start then with the game we were at on Friday night, which was Cercle Brugge against Charleroi. Really kind of Cercle to invite us in to see everything that was kind of going on in the club there. Big thanks to Carlos Avina for having us. Really nice. We went to the Ambride a little bit earlier during the day. He showed us around the training facilities. We also got to meet the manager, Mion Muzlic, who I have to say, if you ever do get a chance to meet him, he will shake your hand off. The man's got an absolute iron grip. Very strong hand. I think my hand's still recovering from that handshake. But yeah, really interesting time we spent there. Carlos spoke to us kind of about players adapting, kind of what they look at in terms of data and all that sort of stuff. A couple of interesting things. I guess everyone gets the same car. Everyone's been getting the same Seat, so there's no kind of differences there. So that was really nice. They gave us some tickets to the game. We then went, obviously, in the evening to the game, soaking up the atmosphere, I guess you could say, at the Ambride, kind of a party atmosphere beforehand with a little DJ set going on. And then, got into the game. Quite an even game, really, despite the 4-1 scoreline. I think it went how we were talking before the game about how we thought it was going to go, which was that one side could score and the other side just couldn't score. Quite interesting, before the game, we also saw Ed Still, who eventually lost his job after this one, actually involved in the warm-ups, which none of us can really remember seeing many managers do. So kind of a sign of the pressure, I guess. Charleroi did take the lead, however it was offside. Ben Boali with a nice finish, actually, but that was given offside. Then a couple of minutes later, Cercle did take the lead through Ayesi Ueda. Carlos has said, kind of gave us a little bit of insight into Ueda about how he's adapting to the game more. He's getting his recovery better. It's just like loads of different things that they didn't really understand were going on with him. He's taken a long time to recover, but now he's finally getting the food he needs and getting the recovery he needs. He looked really sharp in this one. And it was a Jean Marcelin kind of header back across the goal. Great control from Ueda, and he absolutely smashed it past Pierre Patron in the Charleroi goal. And that's how it stayed at half-time. It was 1-0. That was also thanks to Radoslav Majewski with a penalty save. Adam Zorgan took the penalty, and it was pretty terrible, to be honest. Quite a comfortable save from Majewski. But it was also one of those ones that if the goalkeeper dives the other way, you're like, oh yeah, he sent him the wrong way. But that definitely didn't happen. Ueda got the second goal in the 57th minute, kind of typical Cercle Brugge goal, in my opinion, where they just they love to throw it into kind of Denki right on the line, basically on the edge of the pitch. Great strength from him. He plays it back. Hotic could have got there, but Ueda got there first, and we had a perfect angle for this one. You could just see it curling in. You knew it was a goal when it happened. Charlotte did get another penalty. No one understands what really happened. I've seen the replay, and I think it was a handball on Marcelin, but at the time, no one knew what was going on. It was absolute chaos. And Dan Heymans took this one instead of Adams or Gann, and he made it 2-1. However, that was kind of it for Charleroi. They just could not get the goals they needed. Jan Boho came on. He scored a lovely goal in the 73rd minute. And then Jackson Chatura gave Emilio Kehrer his goal, just basically passed it straight back to him when he trying to pass it back to Platron. Kehrer was literally right there, so I have no idea what happened. It was to the point where it was one of those goals where I was looking down the other end because I presumed they were going to play it up. And next thing I see, the ball's in the back of the net. So it finished 4-1 to Cercle Bruges. Ed Steele literally went straight down the tunnel after the game. And yeah, we kind of knew the writing was on the wall then. Great win for Cercle, though. They are in really, really good form. It was great to see them live. I've spoken enough. Scott and yours, what were your impressions of Cercle, the Jan Bridle, Ed Steele, Charleroi, the whole game?
Well, I think we had a great day. I think, didn't we? We had a great day in Bruges. Obviously, we were there all day and stayed over as well. Cercle were absolutely wonderful hosts. Really, really enjoyed it. Lovely to meet Miron as well. We were lucky in that when we arrived on the Friday, the team was just about to head off to the hotel before the match as well, which they tend to do on match days. So we were lucky enough to kind of bump into Miron and say hello and grab him for 5 minutes, which was just kind of wonderful. It's interesting, Ben, talking about the game panning out the way that we expected. Yeah, I think that's the kind of perfect description of this game. You know, Cercle's form in recent weeks has seen a big upturn. They're doing a lot of the basics so much better, I think. And I think Charleroi problem fundamentally was the same problem that they've been having for quite a long time, and that is not having enough up top. You know, they're pretty blunt up top. You know, they're able to work the ball well. They're able to create opportunities, but they're just not able to finish them because they're lacking some firepower pretty much anywhere at the moment. Really interesting, as Ben was saying, to see Will Still out there during the warm-up pre-match as well. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that from a coach before, and he did look like a man deep in thought. That was for sure. Really interesting that obviously he was dispatched, if you like, quite so quickly after this defeat. And there was one particularly telling moment as well. I don't know if it was Ken and Cuba guys, but somebody missed an absolute sitter about 3 yards out from Charleroi, and Ed Still's response was to clap that very loudly, but he also smiled as well, as if this was a man who knew that, you know, not only was the luck going against them, but, you know, he was maybe hoping that the ground was going to open up and swallow him up, which pretty much it did a few hours afterwards. Fantastic day. I must mention the restaurant as well. When we visited Cercle, Carlos recommended some restaurants to us to eat in, and we had a lovely meal and drink in there in the afternoon before coming back down to the game. And I had this amazing boar stew, which is fantastic, which Joris also kind of recommended to me. He said that kind of sounds quite nice, so I went for that, and I know the guys enjoyed their food as well. Ben had a whole chicken, and I mean a whole chicken. I'm not joking. Beautiful meal, great day, great times, and looking forward to kind of getting back to the Jan Bridle.
Yeah, that's clapping from it still. I think I still hear it in my nightmares. That man talking about hands can clap a bit. And yeah, I do think I only have one hand left, or the other one is still numb, at least from the handshake with Miran Muslic to go to the other manager as well again. But yeah, that's interesting experience. I think you guys touched on most of the things. Well, it wasn't Cuba with that miss during that phase where it really was clapping loudly. Terrible miss, really, and kind of the game we expected with Charleroi actually not being so bad. Even also maybe worth highlighting that despite their scoring issues, like the both strikers, well, at least Ben Boali and Hossein Ade, actually were playing quite well individually. But yeah, unfortunately, that they just lack something up top. Indeed, still there's something missing. And I do not know if they have anything like that in their squad at the moment. But yeah, we had a lovely day out in Bruges. Thanks to Cercle Brugge for hosting us for that day.
I understand it as well that Arben has come back with another shirt from his collection, hasn't he?
Yes, I only picked up one shirt this time though. It was very tempting to pick up more, but yeah, got myself a Cercle Bruges shirt. Not the tight fitting ones though. Didn't really feel like I could fit into that and drink beer and eat a lot of fruit.
You had a lovely moment as well. We should tell everybody, shouldn't we, Ben? You had a lovely moment where after the game we were on our way back into the centre of Bruges, where we were staying to our hotel, and somebody, I thought they were accosting you, but they seemed very pleased with the fact that you had a circle top on, didn't they?
Yeah. Got to leave a circular shout. I was very concerned when he started approaching. I was like, "Oh, he looks pretty pissed." But yeah, no, he said it quite. It's not like aggressively, but kind of like passive aggressively. But yeah, no, that was quite a funny moment. I think my kind of overriding feeling following the game, and then following obviously the news about Ed Still, I just I don't really understand what else he could have done. I think because like Ifo said, I don't think they just didn't play badly. It's just they can't score, and it's like, well, there's only so much he can do. Do you know what I mean? Like they're creating chances, they just don't score. And I think there were lots of fans after the game. Obviously, there was a lot of frustration in the away end, but then there's a lot of frustration on social media with people above Ed Still, and I think that's where people's kind of frustration still lies. I don't think them sacking Ed Still is going to kind of distract from that. There's going to be more pressure. Obviously, all the chats kind of Felisa Mazu and him coming back and all that sort of stuff. Whether he wants to do that straight away remains to be seen. It's looking like it's going to be a reasonably big job to just get them scoring again, because if they can start scoring again, they should be fine because they've got enough quality kind of everywhere else on the pitch. But for Cercle, yeah, very impressed with them. I was impressed with Jesper Darland, Abby Francis as well in the midfield. He came in and he looked pretty decent.
Mm.
So they're one of those sides. If you're in Bruges, I'd definitely recommend going and watching them play, because they play some exciting attacking football, good young players, like just well worth a watch. Enjoyed it thoroughly.
I only have one more question now. Is Ed still there?
maybe, maybe he is still there. No one knows.
It's such an interesting one, that isn't it, guys? Because like on the Ed Still issue, I think I was thinking about this kind of quite a lot, and although I wasn't surprised that he left the club after that result, this is something that's been rumbling on for what feels like pretty much the start of the season, really, and it's kind of been building to a head. And actually, I think poor Ed's blameless in a lot of this. As Ben was getting at, his hands have been tied. Everyone's known what the issue is, and it just hasn't been addressed. And it was always going to catch up with them. And I think that they've taken the decision to act at exactly the same point as fans have started to turn their attention towards the boardroom and the people upstairs and ask more serious questions around recruitment. And that's led to even more pressure on Ed. And of course, to release the pressure, inevitably they're gonna change the manager, rather than perhaps some of the people upstairs who are responsible for some of the decision making. So I actually feel quite sorry for Ed Still, because I think he's done a pretty good job there on the whole. And yeah, it's like, taking some of his tools away, then of course their form's going to tank.
Yeah, I think he'll get another job. If I'm honest, I can't imagine people aren't looking at what he did last season with a striker and thinking this guy's a decent manager, because I think he is.
Yeah, he's an impressive young manager. He's got a lot to offer, as other clubs will know, because there's no shortage of clubs looking for a new coach at the moment. Not since our trip anyway.
No, yeah, indeed. Like, also, already different topic still, but to come back to the to my man Zorgan, also a very disappointing game. Outside of what was it, 1 minute or so? I guess we had two really nice technical skills that kept them in possession, but yeah, disappointing game from Zorgan. First time I saw him, and yeah, better luck next time.
Yeah, I think a more confident side, and he looks a little bit better in there. But yeah, they did definitely lack some confidence. Before we get to the second game we watched in Brussels, let's quickly touch on the Mechelen Open game, which obviously saw the end of Bern Stork. Goals from Alessio de Cluz, Julian Goy. They had actually missed a penalty earlier as well, Mechelen. Conan G scored again, thank you very much. But that wasn't enough for Bern Stork. He's gone. We kind of, again, it's funny because we're kind of rehashing conversations that we've been having all weekend after this news, but I just don't know what they were expecting given their transfer business over basically the summer. Where did they think they would be? Is kind of what I'm thinking, because right around they're a point above the relegation zone. They were always going to be in a relegation fight. Like, what did they expect to be happening, and what did they expect him to do, and who are they now going to go to that's kind of got what they need to stay up? Like, I just don't really understand. I understand getting that you kind of want to do something, and you're not happy with what's going on, but at the end of the day, I don't know if you guys have a different opinion on this, but I honestly don't understand what they were expecting him to do this season. It seems like they're doing what was expected of them. It was just hope that that would just about be enough to stay up.
Yeah, I think there's a degree of instability at Open at the moment. I think, which is not really surprising when you see the number of players that had left during the summer, and the kind of meagre pickings that came in a way. And I think from Bernd Storck's point of view, he's working with a group of players who, yeah, it's pretty slim pickings, I suppose, is the way I would describe it. He's not got a lot to work with there. In many ways, when he got that job, we were kind of like, all right, okay, that sort of makes sense in terms of a fit. I mean, this is a manager who has had a track record of getting sides out of trouble, big trouble, and I think this is perhaps an example of somebody who, under normal circumstances, might have been exactly the right pick for this, but actually. I think the again, a bit like Ed Still, when you look at what he was working with, it's very difficult to get any degree of consistency going. And I think the way their season's gone up till now is probably exactly the way a lot of us thought it was going to go. And I don't, as Ben was saying, I don't see how they could have expected anything different. What they're obviously hoping now in making the decision at this stage is that they have some kind of positive bounce that lasts for a reasonable length of time. But that's entirely dependent on a very smart appointment and a very quick reaction to that, because whoever's coming in is not going to be able to change very much in the medium term at that club for lots of reasons. So I don't think it's a particularly attractive job for a lot of coaches, which I think reduces the pool as well, which would be a big worry for me.
Result-wise, I also don't really get it. So I can only presume that there might be some tension that the players did not want to work with him anymore, or he kicked around a bit too much in the club as well. Could also be kicking somewhere else, not the players, but yeah, the higher up. I don't know, because well, yeah, they are indeed more or less where we are expecting them, and they're very much in it. Regardless of that loss against Mechelen. Difficult season ahead for them, of course, and I guess they're indeed hoping for a new manager bounce, and that this is yeah, one of those one of the many that will happen in that relegation battle, which is a bit crazier this year than it already usually is.
Yeah, yeah, I just don't really get what's happening over there in East Belgium. It's just all a bit bizarre, isn't it? And you just look at the defence that they've put together, and it's so young and inexperienced, and it is like a really random mismatch of players that they've got there. There's some really talented players, but then there's also players that are just starting their careers and stuff who are going to struggle and they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah, we spoke about this, guys, at length, didn't we? And it's absolutely fine, I think, for any club to change their coach at a given point. But the bigger question really is, what's the plan? I mean, if the plan is just to sack the coach because the form's that poor, then you've got to really consider who you're bringing in next, I think, obviously. And usually clubs do have some kind of idea, but I have a feeling this is just a reaction to a situation and that there is no plan. But that's how I've kind of felt about how Eupen have been behaving generally in terms of their recruitment as well for certainly for a while. So yeah, by all means, you know what I mean. If you're a club, get rid of your manager, but that in itself is not a means to an end. What's the longer term plan? Who's the right fit? And often when you're a club in a pretty precarious situation like Eupen are, what you have to be very careful of is if you're going to make that change, it has to be with a plan in mind, because change for change's sake usually doesn't work. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do and how the squad reacts to this change as well.
So we'll keep an eye on that one. And yeah, I feel like it's going to be a left field shout for whoever they bring in. So you're going to have a lot of work to do, Scott, on the deep dive for whoever they to eventually go for. Let's go to the Saturday night game. Then we left Bruges after me and Scott tucked into some ridiculously large waffles. Joris held himself back and just had a nice plain waffle. Yeah, Scott and I absolutely loaded ours up with fruit and chocolate and the like. Made our way into Brussels, wandered around for quite a bit, made our way over to the Joseph Mallion, walked around Park Duden. Really, really nice area. Definitely, I mean, it's one of those places you just got to visit just for the sheer history and stuff. Finally, I have to say, to be fair to Union, I think out of most of the games we went to, it was the kind of the one that was building up the most at the beginning. Like when we arrived, there were people kind of milling around, getting ready, getting into the clubhouse, which is great that you can go in and see all the kind of the old stuff, like the old shirts, like squad photos from third, fourth division football, all that sort of stuff. Help yourself to a beer as well and watch. We were watching some Pro League, but then some guys came in and said they wanted to watch AC Milan instead. So that got changed.
That's a different podcast,
Yeah.
that
So
one.
it was all a bit like, okay. So I can understand because they probably didn't want to watch St. Sluden against Leuven and a 0-0. But yeah, really nice. We met with Martin, the comms director at Union. He was super, super welcoming. Showed us around the old stand, basically, which has everything in it, like the changing rooms, kind of all the old stuff that's going on in there, press rooms and all that sort of stuff. Nice look into the changing room. Also looked into the away changing room, which is definitely not as nice as the home changing room, but that's pretty par for the course these days. The Club Brugge officials didn't look too impressed with us poking our heads in, but we did it anyway because we were there. Found our way into the press box as well, which was nice. Got our press passes. Bumped into an old friend, or new friend, I guess you could say. Commentator Will Downing was there on his day off, which is absolutely lovely. It was great to see Will, great to catch up with him and have a chat and just watch the game with him, actually, which was great. It was such an interesting thing because usually every game, or most of the games we watch in Belgian football, we've got Will commentating, but it was nice to actually just be sat next to him. I think kind of an overriding impression of the Judge of Mariners is like when you see it on TV and you hear about how it's like how historic it is and how like kind of amazing it is. It is great to see and the atmosphere is amazing and stuff, but you can see why they're thinking about having to move on and build something new because the infrastructure is just not there. I think at halftime, Joris and I were looking for the toilets, went into the press area, no toilets. There was a massive queue for the toilets. So we actually ended up leaving the stadium and going to the little porta cabins just outside the ground, basically, to go to the loo, which was just bizarre. I've never done that before in my life. But yeah, you can see why they need an upgrade and why UEFA have said they can't play there for the European games. It just makes total sense. But beautiful pitch, beautiful evening, beautiful kind of stadium, great atmosphere for the Union Club Brugge game. We knew this was going to be a big one, and it definitely didn't disappoint. First minute, Andreas Skov Olsen opens the scoring. Really good finish from him. Not the best defending from Union. It gets even worse for him in the 14th minute when Buchanan breaks a Club Brugge break is kind of on its way to Buchanan. He's then pulled back by Simon Adingler. Initially, I thought it looked really soft. Then saw a replay, and the slow motion makes it look like he's grabbed him around the neck, but it's still not massive interaction and contact. But then, having watched it again and again, I'm like, is it even in the box? All these things kind of running through. Didn't matter anyway. VAR intervened. Penalty was given. Adinga sent off. Hans van Aken scores the penalty, and at that point, Club were in complete control of this game. They started a lot better than Union. They kind of took control quite early and looked really comfortable. But then Calgat made a substitution that basically changed the game. Ross Sykes, unfortunately, was sacrificed. Loic Lapoussin comes on. They switched to a back four with basically Loic Lapoussin playing left back and left wing. Very, very kind of unique situation to be in when you have a player that can do both of those things. And that completely changed the game. Despite having 10 men, Union were able to get forward a little bit more. They were able to put a little bit more pressure on the club defence. Obviously, they were happy to let Club have the ball and sit back and kind of soak it up. But Teddy Tooman and Lupasam were really, really key at getting them going forward. And they got back into the game thanks to a set piece. Corner comes in, Chris Burgess heads it home. It was actually, there were a load of Portsmouth boys there to watch Chris play, actually. So it was kind of quite nice that it was him that got on the score sheet. He then saluted the Club Brugge fans after he scored, which I'm sure made them really happy because after the Van Aken penalty, he blasted the ball at Van Aken as well. So there was a lot of tension in this one, which made it really spicy and good. So yeah, it was 2-1 to Club going into the second half. Toilet breaks aside. We also went into the press box, the press area to get some food, but unfortunately, whatever it was that they were serving was all gone by the time we got there, which was a bit of a shame because it looked really tasty. So yeah, if you ever are pressed at Union, make sure you get there quickly if you want a bit of pie or pizza or whatever it was that they were serving. But yeah, second half Club were really poor. Despite having more players, they were kind of quite placid, not really pushing on much, not really looking to score that third goal, having enough about them to score the third goal. And they were punished. 80th minute, that man Lapi Sam with a cross to the back post. Bart Newcoop heads it home. 2-2. Carl Hofkins actually sent on Noah Lang at this point, who we're going to talk about Noah Lang, I think, a little bit in this one. Gulemchuk came on, was pretty innocuous as well. But basically, when Lang came on, you could see the plan instantly from Newcoop was like, just get him riled up, get him riled up. He was leaving things in, I guess you could say, with his first tackle, then dragged him back, knew he was going to get the yellow card, took the yellow card, but squared up to him straight away. Like, there was a lot of that kind of passion and fight, I guess you could say. They knew exactly what they wanted to do to Noah Lang. Finished 2-2 at the end. Great result for Union. I think they definitely deserved the point. Lang was straight off down the dressing room, no clapping of the fans. Picked on that up straight away. Just the body language was weird. Because I think when we're far away, we hear a lot about, in the press, they've been coming out and saying, nah, he's a great kid. We love having him around and stuff like that. I did not get that impression whatsoever being at the game. I got the impression he was more of kind of like, he just wanted to do his own thing. Like, even after the game, when they came out to do like a warm down, everyone had their tracksuit on. He still had his kit on. Just, he was always being different. And it's a shame because he was a quality player when he first came to Belgium, but it's just completely gone from him. Anyway, again, I've spoken too much about everything that happened. I'll hand over to you two guys to see what you thought of everything that went on at the Joseph Marion.
Well, I think one of the biggest delights was certainly to meet Will properly and to, as Ben was saying, to spend the evening with him, which was a real delight for us. Very exciting. I think he was excited to meet us, just as excited as we were to meet him. So that was a big thing for all of us personally, and that was rather lovely. You know, Ben's talked a lot about the Joseph Marion, and I think, you know, we've spoke a lot about Union on the pod over the last kind of couple of seasons. And it's so interesting to me because having experienced what they have to offer at the Marion now firsthand, what I would say about it is we know this is a club going in the right direction. It's on an upward trajectory. You know, the product on the pitch is really, really good. You know, we talk about it every week. We don't need to go over that again this week. But I think, you know, from a business perspective, and from the perspective of Alex Muzio, the club president, and his team, you can absolutely understand what Ben's saying about the need to grow the club is hampered by, ironically, what's there at the moment. Although it's a unique product that they offer and a very good one, as Ben was saying, if you get the chance to go to a game there, you must absolutely do it. You know, while it's still a possibility. But from a business perspective, I think a lot of the answers to things that Union are searching for at the moment, they do need that new stadium and some of those experiences that come with that in terms of hospitality, and this is linked mainly to club revenue, because of course this is a club that's having a fantastic season in Europe at the moment as well, and it's returned to the European stage. But yeah, an absolutely brilliant night. Really, really memorable. Big shout out on my part to the Union fans who were incredible. And I have to be honest, they were even more incredible actually than I thought they were going to be. There was a lovely moment where they broke into Rocca's song and swinging their scarves around. And where we were sat in the press box, we were really close to one particular group in the main stand, and we felt like we were sitting in right amongst it, and it was just a brilliant experience. And I think of all the games we were at over the weekend, I think it was the one in terms of, you know, the quality of the game and the overall atmosphere and experience. For me, it was the best one, you know, all round. Everything just kind of came together. Really, really great evening. The game was actually the one I enjoyed most of the weekend as well, partly because of the spice. Proper entertaining game of football. Will actually turned to me just on the final whistle and said, "What a brilliant game of football it was!" You know, and he was on the edge of his seat for most of it. You know, such an early goal as well. You know, a goal after I think just under 30 seconds. I think it was quite incredible stuff. And there's something about Union Saint-Gilloise that, you know, it's just never short of drama, and I mean that in a good way. Fantastic place to go, and I look forward to kind of going back to many games there. before the new stadium arrives, which I'm sure it will, because the team at Union are working very hard on trying to make that a reality for everybody. But yeah, what a fantastic night Saturday was, and much like the Jan Bridal, which I enjoyed as well. It's another ground and another club I'm looking forward to returning to very soon.
So many little battles on the field as well. Yeah, like Ben already mentioned, Lange and Nieuwkoop, but Nielsen and Thurma was an interesting one as well. Never gonna let Nielsen go. You could see there was still a lot of writing from that side. Burge is also against everyone, basically trying to rile up everyone at Club Brugge, which kind of works, I guess. All a bit on the edge. It's not personally my type of football, as you guys probably know, but still, yeah, it was entertaining to see, and it obviously worked. Well, we can't miss that's brilliant change with 10 men when they were with 10 men to put La Poussin on and move Thurma back to central midfield. That really changed the course of the game. Before that, it was all Club Brugge, and Union was sitting a bit too deep to be able to get anything up front, which they needed at that point already. Of course, I was also talking to Ben during the game, and he's like, I think Ben was quite skeptical after it was 2-0 down, and when they went 2-0 down, and with the men down. I believe I said, like, with any other team, I would probably say it's over, but with this Union side, somehow they always fight back. They find a way back into the game, and well, I can only admire that. And I think I also mentioned at the end of the game, like, well, the only way to actually beat them is maybe just scoring as late as possible, so they don't have time to react. And well, for this game at least, it was the truth. But they have shown this a lot this season already, and over the course of the past few seasons, of course. They never give up. You always will have to put up on a fight, and Club Brugge completely disappeared out of the game. Yeah, Remchuk had a really terrible. Well, together with like these changes, on the other hand, on the other side, well, did not help Club Brugge at all. You could see the momentum switch a bit in the second half. Hoefkes was also feeling it coming during the whole second half. He was, yeah, you could see his frustration growing even when they were still ahead. That was a bit weird to see. Also, he did give some weird comments there at the post match interview, though, that they had a young squad that was maybe a bit too much under the impression of the circumstances, a bit too overwhelmed by them, which is a weird thing to say when you play with Mignolet in goal, Odoi at the back, Michel at the back as well, Nielsen in midfield, and up front, it's not that you guys completely new. Okay, he's maybe one of the younger ones still, but Van Aken on the other hand is not. So basically, on all at least half of the team were experienced heads. So that was a bit of a rubbish comment, to be fair, just to say, to find any kind of excuse. A good show from Union, and indeed, thank you, Maart van Verdoot, and the whole Union staff that helped us, and to get the good bit of a view behind the scenes as well.
Joris mentioned Karel Giret's tactical masterclass, actually, which I'm glad he did, because I think that did make a huge difference in the game and really steadied things from an Union perspective. It was interesting to me as well. Joris was talking about how irritable Karl Oefkens was getting on the touchline as the game went on, and clubs started to kind of fall out of the game as the momentum shifted. As a complete opposite to that, Karel Giretz was actually very, very calm for pretty much the whole game. And actually, when it kicked off, when the initial red card comes kind of quite early, there was a lot of chest bumping, and it was in danger of getting out of control anyway. And it was very interesting just to see him step onto the pitch and encourage a couple of his own players just to step away from the heat of it, which I found kind of very interesting. So I was very impressed by how he handled himself on the touchline. But yeah, equally interesting to see how irritable Karl Oefkens kind of got as the game went on. It was clear to me, as Joris was saying, that he felt the pressure and realised that the momentum was swinging, and that to a certain extent club were holding on in the end, which is kind of ironic after going 2-0 up against 10 men. But yeah, extraordinary game of football in lots of ways. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm never going to write that Union off again, ever. But I was like, yeah, this game's done. Until the substitution, it felt like it was. It felt like they weren't going to get into it. But they never let you down, Union. So yeah, once again, couldn't recommend them highly enough. Go watch a game if you're ever in Brussels. You can even walk from Brussels South Station if you really fancy a nice little walk, which is what we did. Meant we got home very, very late that evening and had to deal with the most bizarre person on the train that we've probably seen for a very long time. So bizarre that the person he was with didn't even want to get off at the same stop as him. She would much rather have stayed asleep and ended up in Antwerp with us. Alas, she did not. Anyway, let's go to Antwerp then. Unfortunately, due to the ridiculous nature of the ticketing system at Antwerp, which requires you to pass about a billion security checks, it felt like, before you can even log in to get a ticket. Scott and I were unable to go to this one in person. Joris, on the other hand, did manage to get a ticket. Unfortunately for him, he was in the Antwerp end. So Scott and I found a pub and we sat down. Thankfully, that was showing it rather than Premier League, which we were kind of concerned was going to happen. But found a nice pub called the Northerner. We sat down with a beer. Joris was in the stadium and he got to see his side win a game. And despite before the game, Joris was a lot more sceptical about their chances. But me and Scott, who had seen Antwerp play Eastend on the Thursday night when they'd won 3-0, but hadn't played great, were like, nah, we think Genk are going to win. Like, we've seen Antwerp not play so great. They definitely upped the atmosphere and the intensity for this game because you could tell they were kind of playing in very much second gear against Eastend on Thursday. However, it was Genk who took the lead. That man, Mike Tressel, with another assist, and what a finish this was from Brian Heenan on the swivel, very acrobatic. Was initially given offside. Scott and I watching it, we could get the replays. Joris unfortunately couldn't get the replays, but we both kind of saw Sam Vine's back leg playing Heenan on side. Took forever for them to make the decision, but they finally did give the goal, and it was a fantastic finish from Brian Heenan. Paul Onuachu then makes it 2. Although part of me thinks this should be a Richie Delato goal, but I've seen it again, and I guess his header is on target. Tessa with the cross from the corner, Onuachu with the header. Just goes straight through Butte. He just needs to catch it, but he doesn't. Hits the lat, goes in. 2-0 to Genk at this point, and yeah, probably deserving of it. They just had that little bit of extra quality that Antwerp just didn't have, especially in the wide areas and the creative areas. But they did get back into the game, and they're probably quite happy to be 2-1 down at half time, considering what was going on. A little bit of mistake. Actually, Delat wins the ball quite well in the midfield. Ball goes through to Janssen. It's kind of not well dealt with by Van der Voort or Artiega. Kind of spills off Van der Voort's hands, falls to Janssen. He does really well, actually, really composed just to kind of stop, take stock of what's going on, then just stick it past Artiega to make it 2-1. Second half, I thought Antwerp came out and played. They definitely seemed to play a little bit better. They were kind of pushing it a little bit more. However, they couldn't get back into the game. Van der Voort did make a couple of good saves, but then Paul Onuachu again. It's like the Tresor third assist of this game. Hat-trick of assists from him. I looked it up. He's on 11 assists, and in second place is, I think it's a Kellenkamp with 5. That's how well Tressel's been playing in terms of creativity. Set piece, corner, cross comes in, and it's one of those ones where the delivery is so good and so accurate that there's nothing Antwerp can do about it because Onuachu is really tall and Dini Almeida's not as tall, but there's nothing, he can't out jump Onuachu in that situation. There's not much he can do. Onuachu wins a header off the post in the back of the net, and that's how it finished. 3-1 to Genk. Joris, as you were in the stadium, I'll hand over to you now because you obviously saw it in a different way to me and Scott on TV, but were you happy? Obviously you were happy with the points, but you were saying the performance, it wasn't as good as you kind of would have hoped for.
Yes, indeed. Like, I walked into the Lions then as well. I'm happy that the Lions kept themselves quiet enough for me this time. So thank you for the hospitality, Antwerp. Anyway, but that was a really nice experience. Also, despite being one of the closest stadiums to where my parents live, that I hadn't been to during a game, and it was a really nice experience. Nice atmosphere before the game, mostly. Kind of expected a bit more even atmosphere. I was a bit delighted with that, especially the area around where I was sitting, which made my experience way less scary than it could have been, I guess, as well. But performance-wise, it's a bit like I think Scott mentioned to me after the game, like we didn't really have to get out of. It felt like we didn't have to go out of second gear. What I also have to mention, I guess, yeah, I do think indeed that Antwerp probably deserved the draw out of it. What about after this game? But what would concern me if I was an Antwerp fan is because it's what I heard a lot around me is that it was one of their best games of the season, and yeah, despite that they deserved more in this game, if that is one of your best games of the season, and that it's a bit scary for you that that you have to say that after this game because it wasn't a great game from both sides. I guess there were moments like, of course, what a fucking goal! I don't know how I kept myself quiet there as well. Maybe because it was given offside initially that I could keep myself calm. Like, yeah, that would have been a silly look if that would have been ruled out. But taking the moments is what Genk definitely did, and yeah, defensively actually kept it relatively quiet. I do disagree with many of. While I agree that maybe a draw would have been a more correct result, I do disagree that Antwerp really had the better chances or a lot of chances. They had a few, but not really big ones. The biggest one that hasn't gone in is probably Onuachu missing from 3 meters out, as well. And well, the goal they score is at least half a giveaway by Genk as well. So that's a defensive error, a sequence of defensive errors at least. While they, of course, definitely indeed, like Ben mentioned, scored it in a nice way and kept composure there. I was also unlike Ben in the game against Ostende, I was quite convinced by Janssen, and I could see why he played up top. Could also see his frustration when he went off, and I couldn't get that. He was giving Kings defenders all kinds of trouble. In the end, it was a really nice experience because they won. I did not expect them to win anymore before the game. Also, not during second half for large parts. But again, like they did not really give away that much. I guess there was the one shot from Ekelenkamp in the second half, and the retro from Gerkes, which Van der Voort held nicely. But yeah, okay, not that much more outside of that as well. I think Genk even managed to, in the end, according to FODMAP, I had to look this up though, but actually had more shots on target even, despite everything, despite being a bit dominated throughout the game. I'll highlight a few players. Hannah was really even outside of his goal, which is of course the cherry on the cake, the icing on the cake. But had a really great game, and it's not a surprise that right at the time that he was having the more difficult 15-20 minutes in the second half that Antwerp managed to get a better spell during the game. At the other side, one of his opponents, Yusuf, really impressed me as well. He was everywhere and covering lots of spaces and blocking for most parts really well as well. So Janssen indeed as well, and Tresor, yeah, 3 assists. Can't complain with that. Even if no, well, he did 3 assists. That's brilliant. 11 assists now as well, which is almost as many as the top assist giver of last season had over the course of the whole season, and we're not even halfway. So, well, of course, this could jinx that, but even then, he's having a really great start of the season. 11 assists and also 5 goals added to that. So it's been really influential and crucial. Yeah, and it feels a bit like the Tresor, yeah, set pieces and Onuachu heading them in combination feels a bit like a cheat code because, well, many people I hear many people say that Genk had a bit of luck with their goals because, well, they were set pieces, but, well, this is actually one of the things that really changed since last season. Then we were conceding them all the time, and now it's just one of their biggest strengths. So you don't need to be as good during the whole game as they yeah to score. They can score from anywhere. Didn't really have to get out of second gear, so in a way it's reassuring that, and they never completely went under. Like they even when they were being dominated for large parts of the game, that's another main difference. Like they keep their own level of fighting and team spirits and defending at a certain level, which is higher than the lowest level they had, that they went through last season, for example. and it seems to be high enough for for sustaining some pressure as well to keep teams out, even when it is not the best period of your own game as well. And one thing that I did really like was actually when Hannah's goal was allowed, you could also see the team spirit. Like they were actually really coming to bring, even after 3 minutes of VAR check, and everyone was already back in position. Like they still like celebrated it all together. Like I guess that was a bit of a, you can really feel the team spirit. In of course that it helps to score goals like that and to win a lot, of course, as well. I think it's now 7 wins in a row. I think it's also a new record with 6 away wins in a row. That's at least something that happened, that they can't take away from whatever will bring the season still will bring. And looking good, actually looking very promising now.
I think we should probably tell everybody about after the game. Joris met me and Ben back in the centre of Antwerp, and you might ask yourself, well, how do you contain yourself when you're in with what for you are away supporters. In Joris's case, he's in with the home supporters and he supports the away team. Fascinating in itself. So how does Joris manage to contain himself, particularly with that brilliant goal? Well, he managed to let it all out when he met me and Ben back in Antwerp Central, by letting out a massive yas, which reverberated around the rather stunning train station there, which many of you, of course, will know. Understandable, very human response. Lovely moment for our Joris. Really, really pleased for him. And of course, as Ben was saying, the joke was, we were saying in the lead up to this game, Lou, we don't think you've got too much to worry about here. This could be quite an easy win for Genk in the end, which actually it kind of was. I think the worrying thing for Antwerp, and I know some of the Antwerp fans feel the same, because as Ben was saying, we were at the game on Thursday evening at the Bossel between Antwerp and Oostende, which Antwerp won convincingly 3-0 in the end. But there were some Antwerp fans expressing to me during that game that they were worried about the team's form at the moment, and there was a feeling amongst some of them certainly that they'd kind of peaked, if you'd like. They've had a really good first sort of 11 games or so, and obviously that's them now had 3 defeats recently as well. Van Bommel looks a little bit more under pressure and feels it, and there's just an uncertainty around the Antwerp support as well. An absolute delight to catch up with our good friend Bob de Jong, Antwerp season ticket holder and part of the De Weekend Pal podcast as well, big Antwerp podcast. Hello to all those guys who I'm sure are listening to us. Delight to spend some time with Bob, on his home patch as well. Made us feel really, really welcome. Good experience generally at the Bossel, actually, I've got to say. Really warm, raucous kind of home support, certainly where I was with Bob. And, they have a lot of fun, obviously, at the Bossel, the home support. The game me and Ben were at on Thursday night was kind of interesting because we felt that Antwerp were holding themselves back a little bit. Didn't play particularly well on the whole, but might have been saving themselves for the big game that Joris was just telling us all about on Sunday. But their performance in the game on Sunday didn't really kind of suggest that was the case at all. I think, those worries that the Antwerp fans have, that they expressed to me, certainly appeared to be apparent on Sunday. And the thing about Genk is they just have more quality than Antwerp at the moment. There's more firepower out wide and up top, and there's just this feeling that there's so much more potential for not only creating opportunities but scoring goals in a way that Antwerp don't. There's worries about where the creativity is coming from there as well. So, it's a tale of two very different sides. And it's going to be really interesting to see how things pan out for Antwerp now, whether the Antwerp fans are right about that and maybe they have peaked and there's a rocky patch coming up for them, because there are teams in and about them in playoff one at the moment who feel like they're going in the opposite direction, who are playing very, very well, and kind of could pull away from them. So if they don't address this slight bumpy patch in form, there is a real danger longer term, I think, and we discussed this at the weekend. I think there is a danger that Antwerp might be in danger of falling out of playoff one if they don't address the issues that we've seen recently and quite quickly as well.
On the other hand, of course, there's only 3 games to the World Cup, and it's such a weird season. It's basically 2 seasons in one. So, for longer term, I'm not sure if you can make a lot of conclusions out of this.
Yeah, they're kind of speaking about our little trip when me and Scott went. My whatever class as a seat just didn't exist either. I don't know what I had a row 22 seat something booked, but row 22 just didn't exist. There was just no row 22, so I just had to kind of slot myself in somewhere. Ended up next to a group of three people. One of whom, she was well and truly on the beers, I guess you could say, singing away. Gave me good advice because I spilt my Coke half down me. She was like, "Bring your own bottle cap next time because they take them off you." And I was like, "That's good. This is what we need to hear." So if you do go to the bottle and you're not going to drink a beer, bring your own bottle caps. But she also says sneak them in by putting them in your shoe or something like that, because otherwise they'll frisk them and take them off you. So that was my experience, which was very good, very fun. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you guys on kind of my issue, and I pointed it out, and then Joris noticed it more when he was at the game, is it's these wide areas for Antwerp which are a real issue. And I know Bob said that to you, Scott, as well when you were sat next to him. But it's like
Yeah.
Balikwisha, he's getting back into fitness, and you can see in the first half, especially against Genk, he was lively. He's the one that you're like, yeah, there's some quality there. But the other kind of wingers like Stengs, he's just the most one-footed player, maybe even in the league.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I
he's
forgot
so
to mention that. Yeah,
it's
that's so
ridiculous.
boring. I used to like him as a player, but it's yeah, he just has one foot, which makes it way too easy to defend as well. You could see that everyone was briefed about that as well. Even though sometimes he still got through, but like
Yeah,
you
like
knew he would go
Artiega
for
was
his
just
left
like, okay,
foot.
then
Yeah.
I'll just show you down the line because you're not going to cross it with your right. And he did once, and he put in a good ball, but he's really one-footed. And then coming off the bench, they've got nothing really out wide. Like I've seen Muya now a couple of times, and I'm just not convinced. He's like ready to be in a team that wants to compete for the title. Don't know why Valencia's not getting more game time, because he looked really exciting when he played a couple of times. It's like a little bit about him. But yeah, there's flaws in the Antwerp side that are becoming more apparent when they're not playing well. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see kind of how that goes. I'm sure they'll be active in the transfer window if they can to kind of shift some stuff around. But at the moment, I think there's three very very good teams in Club Brugge, Union, and Genk. They seem to be the three kind of better teams in the league, and then kind of Antwerp could be there. They've got the points. They just need to refine some form. One side that are definitely out of form and now looking for a new manager, it's Anderlecht. They lost the game with Standard 3-1. That's all the end of Felice and Mazu. And I don't think any of us were really surprised at this. It felt like this was kind of, if he lost this game, it was going to be curtains. The game didn't even get to finish because of anger from the Anderlecht fans. It's a shame that it didn't work out for Felice. I guess we've kind of spoken about it quite a bit, about how his style was completely different to what they were playing before, but it just never really seemed to work, did it, guys? It was just kind of, it wasn't the right match. They should have stuck with company. They should have been more realistic in all their kind of expectations. And now I feel like they've taken two steps backwards from where they were last year.
Yeah, I think it's been increasingly toxic. I think inside Anderlecht for a little while, and there's just I think Mazu finally being sacked just has a horrible air of inevitability about it. Arioris, actually, I should say, big shout out to him here, because Arioris said to us at the start of the season that he felt that Mazu might not be there come the end of pretty much October. I'm pretty sure he called it almost to the month.
I'm not sure if I said
Yeah,
October or November, but
yeah.
yeah, something
You,
like that.
you you were dead right though, Joris. It was really early. So other crystal ball services available. You know how to find our Joris. Yeah, I mean, horrible air of inevitability, like I was saying, and obviously, the fans are really angry and really frustrated at the moment, and that obviously led to the problems at the game. It sliced at the weekend, but the game didn't finish. Because of that, the club then came out and condemned the behaviour, and then shortly after that, obviously Felice and the club park company. It's all been a terrible, terrible mess, I think. It's been quite apparent, I think, to most people that Felice wasn't really the right fit there, I think. He's a very good manager, I think. I think he will bounce back. He will be absolutely fine. I think this is obviously the second big club in Belgium now where he's had a really difficult time, and although this is going to hurt him for a little while, I think long term, I don't think it will, because, like I say, fundamentally, he's a very good coach, has a very nurturing approach, he's very positive. is very witty. And I think just the demands of Anderlecht as a club, Ben was hinting at the expectations there. This is where it gets really interesting because Anderlecht president Wouter van den Hout, obviously, who a lot of Anderlecht fans feel was and is at fault for some of the things that have been happening over the last few months. And the departure of Vincent Kompany kind of came out at a press conference and talked about lots of things going on inside the club, talked about how he wasn't afraid to look in the mirror at himself, which I thought was interesting because he's been party to two huge decisions which have both now proven really to be wrong for the most part. Are there any consequences for him directly? Not really, in the sense that, you know, he said he's going to be staying on and then went on to say something really, really interesting around the fact that, you know, Anderlecht used to be the biggest and richest club in Belgian football. That is no longer the case, and went as far as to say those days are not coming back, and that his biggest challenge is addressing the need for a change of culture within inside. Now, I find this interesting, guys, because, and I don't know what you think, but he really hit a nerve there. Anderlecht fans do not want to hear that, understandably. But I think fundamentally he's making a point which is right. There is a gap, and a rather large one, between the expectations and demands of the fans and the reality of the club's financial and footballing situation at the moment. And to get anywhere near where they want to be is going to take a long, long time. So I think he was acknowledging a truth that a lot of people didn't really want to discuss, and took a lot of heat from that, slightly unfairly, I think. I think he's lost a significant proportion of the support now, which is a problem for the club president. I think that's going to be really difficult to come back from. And I think the only thing that might save his position longer term is if they get a really smart appointment now. They have to be really careful, and they've come out and already said they're really going to take their time with this, which I think they have to. But there's this weird sort of mismatch between the realities of life at Anderlecht at the moment and the expectations. And this is a great club. You know, let's not kid ourselves. A great club with a fantastic heritage and history. Nobody's doubting that. But it was really interesting that Van den Hout came out and was so public about that, particularly in light of the toxicity and the rawness of the last few days as well. So the really, really weird mixture of kind of honesty and also obscuring some of the ongoing issues there. And I kind of feel for Felice, actually, because I think he's been trying really hard to address this, and we've seen a lot of changing, a bit of rotation, a bit of changing tactically as well to try and adjust to all of the things going on. But maybe Van den Hout's right in that there's a culture inside of Anderlecht that demands success, and when that isn't met, you know, anxiety creeps in, and players become unhappy, and that leads to them not playing as well as they can, and it's just a horrible mess. I think the club needs to do exactly what they've said they're going to do now, and that is take their time, take a step back, and just kind of consider where they are, because to see them in the lead position that they're in is kind of quite extraordinary. I have a slight feeling though that the general nastiness and toxicity isn't going to go away with the removal of Felice, because of what I was saying about a lot of the support now not having any faith in their own club president, which is a horrible situation to be in, and they need to engage openly together with one another, I think, and just try and repair some relationships, because fans should always express how they feel about things. But I had a feeling that the demonstration at Slesen in deliberately stopping the game was, while understandable, probably not the best way of kind of going about how they feel, because actually the game was gone by that stage, and the end result ultimately hasn't really changed much, has it?
Well, yeah, they lost 5-0. We'll lose now 5-0 now. That's probably what will have changed. But yeah, just a forfeit and the Belgian 5-0 rule in that sense. Whew, yeah, what else? That press conference from Van Houten is probably the more worrying sign than anything else, to be honest. Well, and especially since the way he was saying things, he was really looking like a beaten man while giving that press conference. Well, that's not the leadership you want at a club, especially not like a proud club like Anderlecht. That's a telling sign of the situation at the club, I guess. Well, you already said a lot about it as well. For shameful is basically the one word that describes to describe it all. The actions of the fans during the game, after the game, the yeah. Well, after coming back to the Anderlecht bus, after going back to Anderlecht itself as well, to Neerpede, a bit shameful. And but indeed, in a way understandable. But of course, it's not the right way to. It is a wrong way to show your disappointment. Of course, can never condone that. Also, a really weird moment where Donham asks his fiancée to get engaged. And yeah, well, during the whole situation that was still unfolding as well, basically it's a weird time and a weird place to do that. Anyway, but well, congratulations on your engagement, at least. that we can say. But I won't touch too much on the side stuff anymore either. But apparently, it's the first time that Standard actually have turned around the game after coming back from going behind. Of course, in the end, that even doesn't matter, since since it will be a forfeit at some point. That still has to officially be announced, but that there's actually no doubt that the result will be anything else than that. Yeah, just the right appointment needs to be made, and they're giving themselves a bit of time with the caretaker appointment of Veldman. That will be important to get a few calls right. I don't think indeed that just the change of a manager will be making the big difference, making a big shift either.
I don't think I've got anything else to add. You guys have basically summed all of that up pretty well. So yeah, we'll obviously bring whatever news we get from Anderlecht when that comes. But obviously, yeah, they're going to take their time to make that appointment, and hopefully you won't see scenes like that again this season in any of the matches. So that's basically it from the Pro League, from the top division, from what we saw. We then spent the evening in Lies. We saw Lies against Lommel in the Challenger Pro League. So I'll just quickly go through the results leading up to this game, because this was the last game of the weekend from the Challenger. Standard second team beat Verton 2-1. Club Next beat Denze 2-0. Jongenk lost 2-1 at home to Beerschot. Dender beat Anderlecht Futures 2-0. Molenbeek, they got a big win. They beat Vazan Beveren 3-1 despite only having 10 men. So then we get on to Lies against Lommel. Again, another one I'd say, if you get the chance to go, definitely go. Really, really lovely club. Very kind of community-based. They're super, super welcoming, Rodrigo. And Yorick kind of really did welcome us in, showed us round, got a glass of champagne as well and a free scarf. So what more could you want? It was lovely just kind of seeing that historic old stadium. This is like a team that's won the league in the past. They have like a little history museum section that they're renovating at the moment, but it's really, really cool just seeing kind of all the old like flags and kind of the European gifts that teams give to each other during games and stuff like that to kind of commemorate the matches. So a club with a massive, massive history, obviously, but they're now playing second tier football. One slight concern that myself and Joris ended up having, Scott was absolutely fine about this because he wasn't that hungry at the time, but Joris and I went off in search of some food just before the game, and the chip fan that clearly we weren't the only ones looking forward to tucking into had some technical issues just half an hour before the game, and we thought, you know what, we're going to stick this out for as long as possible. Unfortunately, we actually missed the kickoff. We were waiting for the chips for that long. But as it opened up, we're like, right, yeah, we're going to get our chips. We then thought, I wonder how you pay for this. I wonder if they take card. Turns out we then had to go somewhere else to get the fan card, top that up with some money, then come back and use the fan card to get the chips. But you can tell it's a good chip fan when the police also came over to get some chips from it as well during the game. Yeah, lovely, lovely stadium release, lovely, lovely people, really, really welcoming. Again, 100% recommend. If you get the chance, definitely go there. It's a really good experience. To the game itself, Leeds obviously started the season pretty well, but it kind of struggled a little bit over the recent matches against a Lommel side who, managed by Steve Bald, former Arsenal coach and player, were also kind of struggling at the moment in terms of form. But it was them who actually took the lead. I thought it might have been offside, but no VAR, so no change of decision. A really nice play down I think it was the right-hand side by Bechali. He crossed it in. Martinez tucked it away. Really, really nice finish from him. At that point, Loma were looking pretty decent, I thought, in this game. They then went and hit the post before the mother of all storms hit. And if you haven't seen it, definitely check out our Twitter account, because flipping heck, when we were queuing up for the chip van, Joris and I could see some lightning, but it wasn't raining. It was still like reasonably warm, so we were like, oh, okay, that's clearly like going to pass over. And then suddenly, when we got back to the stand, the heavens just opened. It was like spiraling. You couldn't even see the other end of the pitch. So obviously, the referee called a halt to proceedings, took all the players off. They then started playing some songs about the sunshine and good weather and good times and stuff, and all the Leeds ultras were singing along, which was absolutely hilarious. They were a good crack, good like kind of fan base to listen to during the match. The game then did get back underway, and it just completely changed within the space of, I think it was about 4 minutes. It was 3-1 to the home side. Leonardo Rocha involved. He was really, really good, actually, just winning a lot of headers and stuff in the first one. That was put in by Thibaut van Achter. Rocha then got the flick on for the next one, which was Niels Schuterden. Really nice, like just smashed it in from the near post. And then Dan Wiekmans made it 3-1. And yeah, it was just a massive, massive turnaround from the home side. Loma were really poor, basically, after the rain break. They just looked really lost in terms of ideas, where you could tell with Leeds exactly what they wanted to do. It was a long ball into Rocha to try and win the flick on. If that wasn't on, get it out wide, get crosses in. Very, very old school, but very, very effective football. Caught up with Mike Green from Lomond after the game, who we've done a special with. So if you're interested in more about Lomond and the City Group and that, definitely find your way back to that one. Really good chat with Mike. Really nice to see him actually at the game. You could tell he was quite disappointed with the performance. He was quite enamored with they did make a kind of formation change to play with two more kind of sixes, kind of deeper lying kind of midfielders, and that definitely did have an effect. They started to hit the post and created a few more chances. But overall, disappointing performance from Lommel. Leeds then went top of the league after that one. A good experience, guys. I quite enjoyed the Challenger Pro League. Obviously, standard was a little bit lower than what we'd seen, but entertainment value was definitely there.
Oh, definitely, yes. There was what a weird game, what a weird way to end the weekend. But everything seems like we saw a lot of goals. Like I believe if we made the whole count, when we made the whole count, if we didn't miscount, I got 17 got to see 17 goals across 4 games, and you guys got 16, which is still 4 goals 4 goals a game, and this one lived up to that standard exactly to that point. Yeah, and in addition, that crazy lightning storm, which is it's ridiculous, indeed. That was I was a bit scared that the game would be called off completely after that, but luckily it was just one of those monsoons, so to say, that lasted 10 minutes luckily, and then everything calmed down. But yeah, they were making a lot of good fun out of it, though, with a few Flemish classics, with and also with, for example, Vamos a la Playa, but also okay, I'll translate the song. I think I also did it during that, like "Let the Sun in Your Heart." This is a translation, literally translated version of a Flemish classic, and they were having a lot of good fun. Yeah, nobody saw that Lommel hit the post during the spell right before the game got temporarily suspended. Then a 5-minute spell after that storm break, and that decided it. As Ben already mentioned, a lot of fun. Unfortunately, while I was talking about all these goals, unfortunately, we got one half without any goal this weekend, and that was that one, the second half. But even there, Lommel hit the post another time. But yeah, Lierse were looking comfortable by that time in the whole second half. They didn't really need to push hard anymore, and they didn't. And Lommel only showed a few personal glimpses, but nothing else either. There was a lovely Oktoberfest after the game. Unfortunately, we were very much invited there. Not only there, but even we even maybe a bit sad to say, but we even missed the press conference because we were basically just too knackered after this whole weekend. We'll make I'll make the promise here to the Lierse guys that we will make up for that at some point, in one way or another. But thank you for the invitation anyway, and indeed, lovely showing around the stadium, short showing, like a lovely museum that I even didn't know about, and the scarf as well. Thank you for the hospitality and to the people at Lier as well.
Yeah, as Joris was saying, we got a lovely welcome from Liers, and we shouldn't forget, this is a really proud historic club who has a real history in Belgian football. There's a real this club has done things, as they say, has played top flight European football as well, not that long ago, still within living memory. And as Ben was saying, the museum had a lot of the pendants from those games kind of on display as well, which was really, really nice to see. They clearly are very proud of their history, and obviously have plans to display all of that more, which is great. Really, really enjoyed spending a good amount of time checking out the stadium as well before the game while things were still quiet. That was a real delight for me. Really interesting stadium, good atmosphere, and as Joris was saying, unbelievably spectacular storm. I've never quite had an experience like that at a game of football before. Unbelievable rain and spectacular forks of lightning that lit up the church in the background in the stand that we were facing. Really spectacular stuff, really dramatic and memorable evening, and we really warm welcome, as Joris was saying, on behalf of the club, and I look forward to getting back there and visiting Liers. Big shout out to Lommel's chief executive, Mike Green, as well, friend of the podcast, has been on the show. We should thank Mike very publicly on behalf of the BFP. Thanks so much, Mike, because Mike was responsible for us actually being in Liers at the game on Sunday evening. It was very kind of him to help arrange that for us in conjunction with Liers. So yeah, really wonderful experience. And if you can get to a Challenger Pro League game, everybody, we would absolutely recommend that you do that. I know we've been saying for a long time it's a really interesting, dynamic and mad league, as Ben says sometimes. It definitely is, but there is a product there that is seriously underrated, and it's definitely worth getting out to and giving some time and attention to as well, because there is talent in this division as well. Ben was talking about Rafik Belgali setting up Lommel's opening goal. Brilliant bit of skill, great move. Some real quality on show in the first half in this game, I thought, although it did peter out, particularly in the second half. Really interesting game of football, and yeah, get yourself to a Challenger Pro League game, everybody, because it's much underrated.
Yeah, absolutely. Could not recommend it anymore. I couldn't recommend anymore. Yeah, just get yourselves over there if you want to go watch some football. We managed to tick off a lot of games in a very short space of time because of just how close everything is, and we're definitely looking forward to going back. Probably going to do it for this one. We're all pretty tired from the trip. Some of us didn't get back until midnight last night. So, yeah, but just before we do go, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that kind of helped us out over this weekend by getting us access, showing us around and doing all that. Like, we really, really do appreciate it. And yeah, we hope that you do as well, you listeners and followers of us who've seen kind of what we're getting up to. Hopefully it's the first of many, and it's definitely put some plans in the works for future content and future episodes. But with that, Joris and Scott, as always, it was a pleasure seeing you this weekend, and it was a pleasure recording with you once again.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of fun, and let's do this again. It was we also Ben and I also spent a day, well, a bit apart and a bit together in Mechelen still on Monday.
Lucky buggers,
Because
you
had
lucky
a late
buggers.
because and Ben even visited the stadium in the small short span where I had to let him go alone, and then the Mechelen, the KV Mechelen Stadium, to be besides, of course, to other fans. That definitely worth to do it again, and indeed, thank you to everyone that helped us out with anything really.
Yeah, it's been an amazing weekend, guys, hasn't it? And to everybody we met and kind of helped us out over the weekend, thank you so much. We had an amazing time. And to those of you who are still waiting for us to get to you, don't worry, we'll be back soon, and we've got lots more planned. In fact, so much that we can't even share it at the moment. But yeah, thank you to everybody who helped us have a wonderful weekend, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you some more content on the ground like this very, very soon.
Absolutely. And yeah, as always, thank you very much for your ears to listening to us on this episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. If you like what we do, please do leave us a review. If you haven't caught up with everything we got up to, just head over to our Twitter account. You can find all the videos and kind of pictures and stuff that we took from the grounds there. But yeah, thank you very much once again, and we'll speak to you very soon on another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.